Hello guys, today we're gonna talk about the movie Dick Tracy. This movie was released in 1990. It's rated PG. It's about hour 45 minutes long. It has 6.1 out of 10 on 90 with about 54,000-ish user votes. No Metacritic thing. It stars Warren Beatty, who was involved in Reds and the Bonnie and Clyde movie. Madonna stars in it too, actually, and she was in Evita. I also will mention Al Pacino's also in this movie very briefly. I mean, not briefly, but I'll briefly mention he's in this movie as the villain. And Warren Beatty also directed this movie as well. He's one of those actor director kind of guys. The movie has on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie has 63% by critics, with about 49 critics, and 53% by audiences, with about 77,000-ish user audiences. And the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is that Dick Tracy is stylish, unique, and an undeniable technical triumph, but it ultimately struggles to rise above its two-dimensional artificiality. We'll get to that in a little bit. Um, the movie is not available for streaming, unfortunately. It is available to rent and buy, though, on Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, PlayStation Store, Microsoft Store, Vudu, and DirecTV. And DVD was released on April 2nd, released in 2002. So, I love this movie. Now, first to address the criticism by Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of criticism. Now, if you watch this movie, you're like, wow, this movie's awesome. But I wouldn't say the story's weak. Even at an hour 45, you could feel like the story has a lot of because the villain gets introduced super early, and the movie's pretty much Dick Tracy being Dick Tracy, kind of doing his thing, and it's and it yeah, it's a little bit like that. It's kind of one of those movies where the two characters kind of hang around, they kind of interact a little, and it's a lot of world exploring, a lot of Dick Tracy being Dick Tracy kind of thing. There is a focus in the story, don't get me wrong, but I will say this. It's been a minute since I've watched it, but I remember there was like 2 or 3 montages in it. I'm like, that's a lot of montages for an hour 45-minute movie. In all honesty, when I remember the movie didn't feel, or it felt longer than an hour 45. In all honesty, it probably could have used a little bit of editing, maybe cut it down to maybe hour 40, hour and a half maybe. Um, but then again, I don't really feel like that needing edit, because visually this movie is a triumph. I mean, geez, this movie brings the comic book characters to life. I did some research on the characters, and all the characters look the same from the comic book, except for the main villain. But in all honesty, his interpretation in the movie is actually better, in my opinion, at least. Um, but I love the characters. It's a very colorful world. There's a lot of great actors in this too. Um, in the designs and everything. And yeah, compare that to the story, I can see the criticism in it. The story's not bad. It's typical film noir kind of style. You got a little main villain, a little bit of a side plot going on with another villain that crosshairs with it at some point. Um, I think the biggest issue with the movie is that I think a lot of people were expecting a story more hard hitting, and it was a bit more like, Dick Tracy doing his thing with people, and the typical stuff. And there is some compelling stuff with juggling romances, prioritizing what works and what doesn't, but still, it's tough sometimes with that kind of thing. And the movie kind of explores that a little bit. I mean, kind of in a film noir style. It doesn't go too far with it, but it does kind of make you aware that not everyone is perfect. Everyone has faults. Everyone has moments where they meet people, and sometimes you have feelings for people that they counteract your feelings for other people. It gets a little bit in that. I'm making it sound more involved in the plot than it really is, but it is a kind of important part of the plot to a degree. Acting's fantastic, no complaints there. Al Pacino kind of, I wouldn't say he steals the show, but he definitely goes toe to toe with Warren Beatty in terms of acting and bravado. It's probably one of his most. This is the stage of Al Pacino's career where he starts being a little bit more yelly. I love that stage. I love it. There's actors that when they yell, it's really like it really grabs you in. And Al Pacino is one of those actors, and I love it. Um, and let's see. But yeah, Madonna's great in it too. There's no complaints from Madonna. Um, Warren Beatty solid. Yeah, yeah. That's the one thing I would say. If the story is good. There's nothing wrong with the story, but you could argue that there are a few cliches in it, like film noir cliches. I don't really mind. You could argue that there's almost too much going on. There is. There's a lot of side stuff. It feels like a mini series kind of spliced together, or a serial spliced together, something. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie. So I understand. It's not like it's focused. It's just a lot of like, here's the big thing, and here's a few side missions that kind of happen during it. So it's kind of like that. It was released a year after an '89 Batman, so it kind of you can kind of tell they were kind of. It is a little bit dark. I wouldn't say that it's like full grown like Batman or anything, but it does kind of have an aura of this is legit shit. We're not fucking around. You know, shit actually happens, and I kind of like that. Yeah, I can't think of any flaws. The direction's great. There's nothing wrong with the direction. The cinematography, like visually, there's not like it's one of the greatest. I mean, if this film was just judged on visuals, it'd be among one of the greatest. The thing that holds back the movie, however, is the story, not the story. Like I said, not that the story's bad, but it just I don't know a lot of people who remember the story, if that makes any sense. And I think a lot of it is because I'm not saying it's run of the mill, but then again, you have to see it to understand. In all honesty, I don't mind the story the way it is. As the film is right now, I think it's amazing. Now, I know it's very tempting now to do something like this now, and they could, but if they're gonna do that, they gotta do practical. They can't do CGI. CGI will just it's not the same. They gotta do practical. It won't be that hard. I mean, you just gotta do some facial prosthetics and everything, and you're good. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, it's basic stuff. I mean, if a movie can 1990 make it look that visually appealing, I think if it was made now, it should work. But yeah, that's it's a great movie. Check it out. It is available in lots of places. I recommend any movie that is like known for its great visuals. I recommend Blu-ray. I mean, in all honesty, there are some times where I have to get DVD out off a whim, and they still look great. It doesn't, but still, it's not that expensive. You can might find it in the Walmart dollar bin or even cheap on Amazon Prime. It's not that hard to get. I highly recommend it, and I don't. It's one of those. It's also one of those movies. If you read and you watch the trailer or see some clips, you can tell whether you're gonna like it or not. I mean, still, you might like it even if you don't typically do like those kind of movies. But it's definitely a good one. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. It's a great movie. Check it out. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.